Hey there, future celeb, and welcome to How to Be Famous with Whitney Euland. I'm your host, Whitney Euland. Now, I'm a big believer that the world would be a better place if more good-hearted people were able to make a massive impact. And if fame is calling to you, then there is an audience for you, and I'm here to show you how to find it. In this show, we are diving into the art of becoming a self-made celebrity. And no, you do not need $1 million ad budget or a team of talented agents. You already have the power inside of you, and I'm here to show you how to unlock it. I'm here to help the talented artists, creatives, and influencers tap into what I call celebrity energy so that you can become the magnet for the opportunities, fame, and success that you know that you were born for. But we're not here just for fame's sake. We're about making a positive impact, sharing your unique voice, and ultimately connecting to like-minded souls who also want to make a massive impact. So join me as we explore the stories, secrets, and strategies to help you shine brighter and leave your mark on this world. Get ready to be inspired, informed, and entertained, because this process is really about turning your dreams into a reality and finding the audience that is obsessed with you. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and together we will embark on the journey where I show you how to be famous. Hello and welcome to the podcast. Today we have one of my personal favorite creators, Courtney Johnson, is here on the pod, and I'm so excited to introduce y'all to her. She's actually someone who went through, so I don't advertise this often, but I do have courses, not just my coaching program. And so when people go through my courses, I don't always know. And so Courtney is someone who went through one of my courses at some point in her TikTok journey. Maybe, she'll be able to talk a little bit about that. And then I just reached out to her because I literally just loved her content so much. And so that's kind of how we connected. So welcome to the podcast, Courtney. Thank you so much for being here.
Whitney, I am so excited to be here. Like, your work has helped me so much. I teach a lot about getting over the cringe and fear of being seen, but I mean, almost everything I learned it from you, and your course was a huge catalyst to kind of get over, going into a whole nother level of my own content creation journey. So thank you for all of the help that you've had in my journey.
Oh, well, thank you for your kind words. So, okay, so Courtney, I have been following you for a while, so I do know, but I want our listeners to hear a bit of your backstory. So, well, yeah, let's start with the backstory. So, something that I learned through Courtney's content is that she was a Dallas Cowboys cheerleader. And I think that is the coolest thing ever. I am a Dallas girly. I grew up in Dallas, went to the Cowboys game this Thanksgiving. So I totally geeked out about it. But I'm wondering if you could even just start there. Like, how did you get into that? What did you learn? What were the takeaways? Like, I don't know, just brain dump at me.
So I actually never made the team. I went through 2 years on the show and training camp all the way to the last day and got cut. But I did get to star in the show, and I was a professional cheerleader for the Dallas Stars as well. So close, but not entirely. But I did go through all of that whole world. And growing up in a small town in East Texas, I always just wanted to do the biggest thing, like the biggest goal. And being from East Texas, like, this, being from the suburbs of Dallas, the biggest thing I could think of, the most fame, the most incredible thing was to be a Dallas Cowboys cheerleader. Like, I didn't comprehend anything bigger. So
Yeah.
that's why I went for it. And I wasn't necessarily the best dancer or the best performer, the best technically trained, but the reason why I was so successful and even getting into the program is I think I really leaned into like the typecasting of it all, really studied the personal brand, really embodied the fake it till you make it confidence. And it really worked out and kind of launched my career. So from there, I went into the sports marketing world, then the marketing agency world, then to some tech startups and on my own. And now I'm teaching other people to build personal brands as well.
Okay, so I just totally fucked that up. Let me try that again and set you up for it in a better way. So, okay, so tell me the breakdown again. So it was, and I don't even know how that all works. So you were on the show, and then I'll re-ask you the question. So
So
what
yeah,
is the difference?
so you go through this like a year of training, and then you try out for training camp. And when you get into training camp, you're technically on the team, but you can get cut before the season. So you're
What?
technically, yeah, so like you're technically a training camp candidate. It's really confusing. So
Okay, but
yeah,
there's a
maybe a better angle is on the show or like
the
starring
show.
on the show. Yeah.
Okay, and then what's the show called?
It's called Dallas Cowboys Cheerleaders Making the Team, or just Making the Team.
Okay, cool. Okay, thank you. Sorry about that.
It's all good.
Okay, so before we get into kind of where you're at now, a fun fact that I have learned from your content is that you were part of the Dallas Cowboys cheerleader making the team television show. I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan. I went to the game this year. I'm from Dallas. I have to know more about this. I want my listeners to know like what the fuck? Tell us all about it.
It was just the most amazing opportunity ever. For my young 18-year-old brain, this was the biggest goal I could have set for myself. Like the biggest thing I knew, the biggest fame, the biggest accomplishment. And I just put everything into it. So basically, you go through like a year of training kind of on your own, or these unofficial training programs where you learn how to embody the confidence and you learn the dances, you learn what you need to know. Then you go through this really rigorous audition process. And if you make it, you kind of make the TV show and go through a whole season of what's called training camp, where you're filmed, you learn all these dances, you go through these challenges in order to make the team. So it was an incredibly just transformative experience for me.
So what did you, because like I remember you were kind of talking about like that was maybe kind of like an intro to realizing that there's a system here that you could work and that there's like a branding element. Like for being, you said you were 18 when you were doing this, like that's so young to have that awareness. Like what was that? Like has anything of that translated into your current career and like the way that you're like now building your own platform?
Yeah, I had two really big realizations. The first realization was that talent did not necessarily equal success. You're not
Mm.
necessarily judged on your talent, and the most successful girls that go through the program and make it and get all the accolades are not always the most talented. And so I realized not only in that program, but with my career and everything I'm doing, like, oh, it's not the most talented people that are at the top. It's the people that are putting themselves out there. So that was a huge realization. And the second realization was that there is transformation that happens in like really believing in yourself, almost like gaslighting yourself or faking it till you make it.
Ooh.
And I saw these girls that I first met them and I'm like, there's no way that they're going to go through this program. There's no way they're going to make the show. There's no way they're going to make the team. And they did it because they truly went through this transformation of just believing in themselves, faking the confidence until the confidence was true. So that was really cool to see too, because I got to see this transformation in others.
That's so cool. I love what I mean, I love both of those. I think like something okay, so last night I was at this panel for the Hollywood Reporters 35 under 35. It's all Hollywood execs and they had this one of the recipients is a talent agent and some at the end people were able to ask questions and someone was a writer. They said like, what are you looking for in writers? And he said, it's 50% like you got to have a good script like for sure, and the other half is like how well can you do in the room? Right. And what he meant by that was he went on to say, I'm literally pitching my people to like Brad Pitt. You can't then like have just like you can't just rely on the script. You have to then be able to go into the room and hang with Brad Pitt and like not be able to just like or and not just crumble, right? And so I thought that was interesting, but kind of reminds me of what you're saying, how it's like it really is that confidence and being able to like turn that on. Do you feel like when you're in that experience that was when you learned to fake it till you make it? Or was that kind of like what showed you, oh, that's what I need to do? And then you learn that later in life?
Yeah, both. I definitely learned how to do it. And that's why in a lot of my content, I talk about gaslighting yourself because it almost is gaslighting yourself. Like you have to pretend, you have to act until you truly believe it. And that is very powerful. So
Yeah.
yeah, I learned it then and I saw it in others. And again, in my social media career and managing other people's personal brands throughout my career, I've just realized like your work, if your work is good, it doesn't really matter. It matters, but your work is not what's going to get you to your goal. Like there is more layers. It doesn't matter how good your writing or your music or whatever is. If you're not actively putting yourself out there and getting over that fear and like constantly building the muscle of rejection, it's not going to work out for you.
100%. I love that. I know even as an actor, it's like the rejection is just a muscle, right? It's like you get told no enough and you do get better at it. I'm curious, like, so if you wouldn't mind just sharing with our listeners, so where you're kind of at now, like, going from the show and then building your career, like, how did you, I don't know, leapfrog your way to where you're at now, where you have this incredible brand?
Yeah, well, it was a great stepping stone because after the show, everyone in Dallas thought it was really cool. I was on the show and it showed that I was confident. And so I it wasn't hard to get a job in social media and marketing or sales because they already know that you embody those qualities. Another important part of personal branding that I communicate to my students is there is unconscious bias based on how you're presenting yourself. And I don't necessarily mean bias in a negative way, but could be something as simple as, if you wear glasses, you look a little smarter. And there was a bias around if you were a professional cheerleader, you were probably bubbly, outgoing, like smart, conversational. And so it was easy to get a job in social media and marketing and sales. Throughout that world, I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed creating for other people, but I just wanted to create for myself. Like I was at a point with social media management where I'm like, I don't want to create for other brands. I don't want to create for other people. It's time for me to put my own work out there. So about a year ago, I fully dove into my own content creation on TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn as well, putting out my own expertise to kind of bet on myself rather than, the security of other people. So since then, I've been creating content, doing coaching classes, some consulting work as well. And it's been just, again, like transformative, completely transformative.
100%. So tell me this, because I see you as someone who's like, I love to talk about like leveraging fame, right? Once you have this asset of like people know who you are, you have like, how to turn on that celebrity energy, how to draw people to you, then you can leverage it, right? So it sounds like you were leveraging that in terms of like working for other people. And then you're like, okay, now let's leverage that for my own brand. For someone who is maybe taking that leap, right? They've been at corporate and now they want their own thing, or they've been working under someone and now they want to, or whatever, or even an artist, right? Where it's like, no, I'm like, for me, it was actually scarier to write than to act, because it was like, no, I have to put my voice instead of just like read someone else's lines. What was that like for you, that journey of like taking that leap and being like, okay, no, like, and you mentioned, like you had to step into being a thought leader essentially and kind of have that identity and embodiment before maybe the follower count was there or whatever. So like, well, how did you navigate that?
That was the hardest part because I went into it thinking that it could be logical. Like, logically, I know that there's no harm to me if I put this out. Logically, I know if I fail, whatever, nothing really bad is going to happen. But I realized there was something deeper and I had to go through like a somatic healing in order to get there. So a couple of resources that have really helped me is like the Artist Way. Whitney, your work has really, really helped me. Breath work, yoga, meditation, all of the things. But I mean, it is rooted in a fear of being seen. So throughout this process, I had to go back and figure out what my fear was in being seen, in putting myself out there, really heal that in order to get to where I am today. And it is fucking hard and very, very scary, like terrifying.
Yes. Well, and something like why I see you as like such a successful creator is like and you've been great about sharing, like income transparency, which is amazing and I think is so needed. But just in general, I feel like you're so transparent with who you are. And this is what, like, when I'm working with my clients, it's about like creating, like, I feel like we're at this age, right, where, to me, when brands are showing up or even a person is showing up and just being like, I'm the thought leader here, it's cringy now. Like, I like to akin it to like an 80s infomercial where it's like in the past that worked and now we're like, what the fuck? Whereas like now, what I believe is that, and I think this is what you do so, so well, is creating this parasocial relationship. And so the way that I like to think about it is like, I used to live in New York City. I used to go to, like, I love the ma and pa shops. I love supporting them because it's like I knew them. I knew about their family. I knew about their friends. I knew about, whatever. And really the skill of blowing up right now and creating a successful brand is being able to translate that into the online space, right? And I think that's something that you do so well, where it's like just little things that people remember about you, whether it's your tram house, whether it's, your thing with a cringe mountain. Like, you come up with these little things that are both like such a good blend of, your expertise, but also bringing you to the table. And I think that's really where the future of all of this is going. I'm curious, so like with what you're selling, and also I love picking up on just little like breadcrumbs that people are dropping. And to me, you're someone who, like, you have the bag, like you have the shit, what you're talking about. And you also, I feel like, are maybe more spiritual than you lead on. So I'm curious, like, how does manifesting, like you mentioned, the somatic stuff, all of that, which is obviously such a huge part of what I do with, like, you have to hack your nervous system so that you feel safe doing this. But how does spirituality and manifesting and all of that tie into what you do?
Yeah, that's such a good question. That's such a big question. I always joke that my content goes way deeper than it needs to be. And sometimes my content is like about LinkedIn. It's like everyone should post on LinkedIn or go optimize your LinkedIn profile. You might be like, okay, yeah, great tip. I'm like, no, this is so much more important than you realize. I think a big part of the realization of this is going through the book called The One Thing. It's a fantastic book. Basically, brings you to what you should be focusing on and essentially the highest form of leverage thing for your life. So for a lot of us, that might be audience building slash fame. So that was really helpful in realizing like, okay, this goes deeper. I have a message to share and it's my responsibility to share that message with others. Not only that, but it's my responsibility to help others get to their purpose. And so for me, like the spiritual aspect of it comes down to responsibility of my purpose. Like I need to be a disciple to my own dream and teach what I have learned. Like it is my responsibility to do that. And it's cool because as I'm doing this, as I'm putting out these little breadcrumbs, I am seeing people come to me for questions that go a little deeper, that are about spirituality or mindfulness or whatever. And it's cool to kind of poke the bear and then see them be like, hey, actually, like, can I learn more about this? Or like, where do I read this? The Artist Way, another, I mean, great book too, helped tie those things together for me as well, because I used to kind of see them as separate, but that really brought together the spiritual aspect and work aspect together of reframing my mind as like entrepreneurship is an art form, content creation on
Yes.
TikTok, LinkedIn, whatever, is an art form. We're all saying the same thing, we're all putting our messages out, it's just a different medium.
That's so good. And like okay, what you just said with like your be a disciple to your desires, did you come up with that or is that like a like because you're so good with marketing bits?
A mentor told me that.
A mentor told you that. Okay. So I'm curious because and I wanted to get to this one of another one of yours, which is trolls or tools, which I want to come back to. I'm curious though, with what you're saying, like I'm kind of getting a sense from you that like you feel like your goals have caused like a transcendence of yourself and have caused like you to have transformation. I'm curious, like aside from the money, aside from the followers, like what like positive effects have you seen as you continue to set and hit goals and like
Oh my
grow your
gosh,
audience?
the biggest thing has been peace in my future and a knowing that everything is going to work out and a knowing that I am on the right path. And also the transformation has almost been in like accepting the pleasure, accepting helping others, accepting compliments, stuff like that, rather than anything else. And that's been surprising too. But that has been huge too. Just being able, somebody saying, oh, you really helped me with this, or you're right, like something like making more money or whatever, being able to accept that and actually feel into that and actually enjoy that is huge. That's been just an amazing part of the transformation.
I love that so much. And it's like almost counterintuitive where it's like, I think a lot of the time people think that people who go after fame are like full of themselves or whatever. And it's like, no, actually, the hard part is receiving the love. Like, it's, and, maybe that's just more for like spiritual minded people, but I love that. And something you said also, I really liked with like, knowing that the future is going to be okay. That's what I love about this work of like creating the resource of fame because it's like, you can have like, the times that my business have done the best, like the two biggest like quantum leaps have been during a global pandemic with when most artists couldn't get work. And at that point, I was literally able to hire and employ 24 different artists. And then also during this time that I'm like going through a divorce, right? And I think that that has been so empowering to me. And like, I'm guessing for you as well, of just knowing that like when you develop a personal brand, when you develop this resource of fame, you're going to be bulletproof to recessions, to being able to like economic downturns, to hardships in life, because you kind of have this new lever that you can just switch to take care of
Yes,
yourself.
absolutely. I tell my students a lot and I post about this a lot, but if you pick one platform and post every single day for an entire year, you will never have to worry about money again. And I don't mean your money problems will be fixed. I don't mean you're going to have millions of dollars coming towards you, but I do mean you're always going to have a job or a gig. You're always going to have a client. You're always going to have some sort of opportunity if you show up every day. You will never have to worry about your opportunities being dry. Like it is the best stepping stone for or just like resource for always having something coming in. And what you're saying, like during these difficult times for you, that's where most people would stop. and make it worse for themselves. And most people, especially like during COVID, most people did stop. They're like, oh, the economy's not good. I can't start my business, or I'm scared of this, so I can't put myself out there. But by being the person like Whitney that you are, like showing up consistently every day, that's why you were successful during that time.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm curious. Okay, so I touched on this a little bit, but you have this incredible phrase that now I'm telling all my clients of like trolls are tools. You I see as someone who I and you can tell me if I'm misspeaking, but for me, I witness you as someone who's like you've overcome your fear of being seen and now you're just like boom boom ka ka, if you will, and just like yeah, now I don't care about trolls, like whatever. Is that accurate? Is it something you still have to work through? Like, what is your experience with haters, with trolls, with like that kind of thing? Do you feel like you have gotten to a place where you're past it?
I love trolls because trolls are a symbol that you're doing something right. Like think of the people with the most fame in the world. Half of the world hates them. Like half the world hates the Kardashians. They have 4 billion trolls on them all the time. But they also have a ton of people that love them. So I see trolls as, I mean, the first time that I started getting trolls, I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is a huge milestone. Like this is awesome." Because if you're putting out work that everybody likes, it's probably not authentic and it's probably not good. The little story that immediately switched my mind around trolls is I was listening to Coco Moco's podcast. She's a great content creator,
Love
talks about
her.
social media. Yeah, she's great. She was talking about the app Lemon 8, and Lemon 8 is a Pinterest competitor that's created by TikTok. So TikTok put billions of dollars into this Pinterest competitor called Lemon 8, and it never took off. Nobody cared. And she was saying that the telltale sign that it was not going to be successful is because it did not have trolls. Where an app or a song or something you're putting
Mhm.
out, if everyone is like, yeah, it's good, or it's okay, it's not going to take off. Where something like TikTok, again, has a ton of resistance of people being like, TikTok sucks, the privacy, China, whatever. And then other people being like, oh, TikTok's a great tool. So she predicted that Lemonade was not going to be successful because there was not that like yang to the yin, that other polarization of the trolls. And so every time I see trolls, I'm like, oh yeah, like that. I'm thinking about that. I know the trolls are good and a good sign. And then yeah, they're a tool. You can leverage them. Go start a fight in the comment section of one of your videos and it's going to blow up. Like they're great tools to have.
I love you and I love this and I think that that's such a helpful reframe because like for me and for most of my clients also like we're pretty sensitive and so the work is like kind of like but that's the point that I want to get to like 100% is getting to the place where it's like I'm just like this is so fun but I will say and I feel like you maybe were posting about is it the four agreements.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so
good.
I just started that, and I think the like, one of the main takeaways so far is like you just can't control how people are going to see you, and like it actually has nothing to do with you. And so I think that's been interesting and helpful. But I also think that with like it's similar to like the young, it's like the like even a magnet, like the stronger the magnet is, the stronger the repulsion is going to be to it too, right? And so just creating that is actually a good sign that you're like onto something.
The book, The Courage to Be Disliked, is really helpful too, because it kind of
Yes.
it frames thing as my task and your task, and it's your task of what you think of me. It's my task what I think of me. So that's also helped. And then also just having empathy and understanding, like, all right, if I was in that, if I was born into that person's family, lived their exact life, was in their situation right now, if I went through their whole life, I would be commenting the same thing too. Like most people just
Mm.
aren't conscious to commenting. They go into an unconscious mode of anger or whatever emotional release, and that's their way of doing it. For some people it's like drinking or yelling or whatever, and for the trolls on the internet it's trolling. Like you would be doing the same thing too if you were in their shoes. So there is a point of empathy that's helpful as well.
Yeah, I love that. That's super I really like that. I'm curious, have you had any experiences or what would you say maybe if you have advice, if you don't want to share anything personal, that's fine. But like a lot of clients also, they're like, I'm worried about what my family's gonna think. Like, or they start your family starts seeing, and then there is that you talk about the cringe mountain. So where it's like it's cringy at first, and then all of a sudden, kind of everyone wants to be part of it. So like, what advice would you have for someone who's not feeling the most supported by the people that are the closest to them?
Yeah, I honestly would write down the names of exactly who the people are that you're afraid of seeing your stuff, and block them. That's what I did. And some were even good friends of mine that I still am good friends with. I just told them, look, I'm doing this thing on my own. I feel weird about it. Like, I'm gonna block you, or I didn't tell them I blocked them. I was not, I wish I could say that I'm strong enough to have some answer to this question, but truly the way I got over that is by blocking people.
Boundaries. I'm super here for
Boundaries.
that. Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I was just doing a call with my clients yesterday about how like fame really comes down to energetic boundaries, right? It comes down to like actually setting the boundaries, whether that is blocking people or having difficult conversations or whatever, but also just energetically saying like, this is not allowed in my space. And this is not going to affect my energy or whatever. So I love that. Okay. So then let me ask you this. Where are you headed next? What do you want to leverage like, do you want to just keep doing what you're doing and grow that? Are you leveraging I mean, if you're comfortable sharing, obviously, I'm sure there are some hidden things in the works, but like, what's next for you?
Yeah, next, I'm starting a podcast that airs in the end of February called Slay the Gatekeeper, and I'm basically
Obsessed.
ungatekeeping all the things that I've learned. So it's going to be very cheat code-esque. So that's going to be fun. I'm, yeah, just continuing to put out more content and resources. And my idea is just sharing the things that I learn as I learn them and ungatekeeping them along the way. So yeah, more content, a podcast, probably more resources, all the things.
I love that. And then if my clients want to find you, they want to work with you, what are ways that they can do that?
I have quarterly cohorts, so they're small group classes, one on LinkedIn and one on TikTok. And then I post a ton of resources, a ton of free resources. I have a newsletter. You can find all that on my Instagram at Courtland Johnson or my TikTok, Courtney period Johnson.
Amazing. We're definitely going to link those. I really also do just like admire, like you just seem like an encyclopedia of information. Like even just the information you give away for free is so helpful. And I'm sure that like you're the clients that pay get like even more transformation. So amazing. Well, thank you so much for being here. Is there anything else that you wanted to share? Any questions, comments, concerns, gossip, advice, literally anything?
No, I don't think there's anything else. I just want to again thank you because you've been a big part of my journey and you're on my resource list that I give to others when they're struggling with the fear of being seen. So thank you for all of your work. It's really amazing.
Well, thank you for being here. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day. And thanks everyone for tuning in. I hope that you enjoyed and go follow Courtney and hire her if you want to be the next big thing on, you said TikTok and LinkedIn.
TikTok and LinkedIn. Guys, LinkedIn, you're sleeping on LinkedIn.
For real. Awesome. Thank you.
And that's a wrap on another episode of How to Be Famous. If you found today's episode to be helpful, then make sure to subscribe and leave me a review or tag me on Instagram at Whitney Euland. Your feedback helps me to continue making empowering content. And if you're ready to be the next big thing and you want to take this work even deeper and work with me directly to become a self-made celebrity, then head to the link in the show notes where you can learn how to coach with me directly. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or gossip, then feel free to slide into my DMs. They are always open. I'm at Whitney Euland on TikTok and Instagram. I always love hearing your stories, celebrations, and wins. And remember, this is not about fame for fame's sake. It's about making a positive impact, bringing your dreams to life, and inspiring people along the way. Stay inspired, stay ambitious, and most importantly, stay true to your authentic self. Until next time, I'm Whitney Euland, and this is How to Be Famous with Whitney Euland.